Let me just
Okay.
call roll.
Great.
Commissioner Goldman,
Here.
Commissioner Lama, Commissioner Viscara,
Here.
Vice Mayor Svechen,
Here.
Mayor Scholl,
Here.
all members present.
Okay, thank you, Mauricio. Welcome, everyone, to the workshop. As usual, I have an opening statement that I have to read, so I'm going to read it. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us today. Please ensure that your microphone is muted to avoid interrupting today's proceedings. Individuals who wish to speak are asked to raise the hand function, which can be located by following these steps. If you're using an iPad, tap the center of your screen, tap on the three dots located at the top right corner, and select Raise Hand. If you're using a desktop, click on Participants at the bottom of your screen. That opens a side window listing all the participants. On the participant screen, click on the three dots located on the bottom left-hand corner and select Raise Hand. If you called in and are listening on your phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, and the city clerk will call on you based on the last four digits of your phone number. So we have a lot of ways to connect here through Zoom, and it works really well. I'm on probably 5 Zoom calls a day, so I can tell you it's pretty bulletproof. So when called upon, please state your name and address for the record. Speakers may also use the chat function to submit their comments and questions. These chats are only available to the panelists and host. The host will, in turn, read it into the record. The chat function is located at the bottom of the screen. Please make sure to type in your name and address for the record if you use the chat function as well. Speakers are asked to speak to the issues, make comments concise and to the point, and refrain from making duplicate comments. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. If you exceed the 3 minutes allotment, the chair, meaning me, will advise you to finish your comment. If you don't adhere to the chair's advice, we turn off your microphone. So it's easy now. But hopefully everybody will say what they have to say. So for today's meeting, we're going to do this in like 4 parts. So I've got an opening statement I'd like to read, which kind of brings everybody up to date on what's been going on regarding all these restrictions and rules around COVID, what's been lifted, what's not been lifted, what we're doing, and there's been a lot of activity in the past couple of weeks. Then I'm going to ask the commission, anybody on the commission that wants to speak and say something regarding any of these issues or anything that they'd like to speak to. Then we've got a list of questions. I've got nine questions, or nine residents wrote questions in. I'm going to read those, and we can speak to the responses of those. And some are going to get covered by some of the things we talk about up front, and some aren't. And then we're going to open it up for the general comments for those that have called in today. If you want to speak, if you have a question through chat or through one of the mechanisms that we just talked about. Usually at workshops, we don't really have an interactivity. Usually with workshops, it's just here to kind of tell you what's going on, and we call it a day. I think given the circumstances, and it's so extraordinary, the circumstances we're in, this workshop, I don't mind. I'm going to indulge the interactivity. I think the commission will agree. You know, we've got a kind of a crazy time going on, and so I think we all have questions we want answered, and hopefully we can answer them. So let me open on some key issues here. Okay, so most everybody has probably seen the letter I put out the other day, and that beaches, hotels, and pools, condo and hotel pools, will reopen on Monday, June 1st, 2020. And so there's detailed guidelines are going to be posted on the county website. I'm going to go over the big issues now, but I can tell you it's been a moving target, okay? All week, every day, 2 or 3 times a day, we've been getting updated rules from the county. Not that they've been wishy-washy, but they've been fine-tuning. So just so everybody understands this process, we've had multiple calls with the county because the county ultimately, the state subrogated their authority to the county on the opening of the beaches. And so we've had multiple calls with them. And on those calls are healthcare experts, Department of Health doctors, epidemiologists, infectious disease specialists. The county mayor has relied on a lot of outside experts in shaping a lot of these rules, and in how we're going to lift them. And everybody weighs in. We've even got the CEO of Jackson on those calls. I mean, everybody's been on those calls. And most of the city managers for the coastal communities and most of the mayors are on those calls as well. So my point is, none of this stuff has kind of been done in a vacuum. We've had influence on the process at times. For instance, and I'm going to talk about the condo pools. I mentioned that in my letter. They were not ready to open condo pools, and we pushed them really hard, and we got them to agree to also open condo pools. So my point is, it's not happened in a vacuum, but it has been a process, and it has involved a lot of experts. So everybody kind of weighs in. And again, like I've said many times, just because we're bored and we're tired of staying home doesn't mean the virus goes away. In fact, the virus is probably going to have a resurgence as we start to loosen all these restrictions and everybody starts commingling again. So, but I think the goal is not to have such a resurgence that our healthcare system gets overwhelmed. So, that's the 50,000 foot view. But let me talk about some of the guidelines that are going to, regarding the beach and the condo pools. So basic beach rules, okay? The beach will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. No groups of 10 or more will be permitted together at any time. And those are supposed to be family groups. So the idea is that for families to be able to be together without having to social distance. Okay, so when you show up to the beach, you don't have to wear a mask or facial covering, but you have to have facial covering available if you're asked. Why? Because if you can't be 6 feet apart, if the beach gets so packed that everybody's on top of each other, you gotta wear facial covering. So the idea is that everybody spaces out roughly 6 feet, and if you don't know what 6 feet is, go toe to toe 6 times. All of our feet are about a foot long or a little bit less. So if you got small feet, go 7 times. But that's the idea. The other thing is if you have to use the restroom, if you have to use one of the public bathrooms, you have to have a mask or a facial covering to use one of the bathrooms. Okay? They're not required for children under the age of 2 and someone with a medical condition. Obviously, if you've got a medical condition that would prohibit you from wearing something, then it's not required. And if you're involved in strenuous activity, and when you swim, you don't have to wear one. So again, most of these rules are very similar to what we're dealing with in the parks and in other places. So the idea is, there's been a ton of debate around restrooms. How do you use the bathroom? Because arguably, when you flush the toilet, there's aspiration of unmentionables, and people have been. So all the healthcare experts there's been raging debates over the bathrooms. And I can tell you, I've been on calls for hours where, they say we need HEPA filters and we need toilet lids, and all these things are completely impractical, given that there's probably 5,000 bathrooms throughout the county, and we have bathrooms in our neighborhood as well. But basically, the restrictions right now will be one person at a time or a family. Like if you have a small child, you can take them in the bathroom. They're supposed to wait 3 minutes between users. I'm not sure if that one's going to hold. I think the latest round might have scrapped that one. And about every 2 or 3 hours, we're going to have people there to thoroughly clean the bathroom. Okay, so we can't clean it between every single use, but every 2 to 3 hours, the bathrooms are going to get cleaned. The county is going to give us some extra personnel. They're going to help us with, they call them beach ambassadors, to assist their lifeguards, code enforcement, and police in enforcing the rules for at least a couple of weeks. Because the bottom line is, we've got to be very careful here. If the county mayor feels it's overwhelming, he's going to close the beach again. That's not my call. That's not the commission's call. I can tell you. If the county mayor feels there's not enough enforcement and we're not be able to run the beach in a safe manner, it's going to get closed. And so all I can say is to everybody, let's be cognizant of that. There's no dogs or pets permitted on the beach. Okay? Permitted activities include swimming, walking, jogging, running, sunbathing, and lounging. And obviously when you're lounging, you have the distance 6 feet between yourselves. And with the swimming and the jogging, with the jogging I think it's a 10 or 15 feet. I think we try to keep 10 or 15 feet between folks, they're jogging. If you've got a beach chair or a towel from a concession, okay, they got to be clean between uses. And again, Mayor Jimenez feels very strongly that if the guidelines aren't adhered to, he will not hesitate to close the beach again. Again, he's out of office. It's not a popularity contest. He doesn't care. Okay? And I kind of feel the same way, to be honest with you. I mean, the bottom line is we've got to do what's right. Okay? And the fact is, if it gets overwhelming and people aren't behaving, it's going to be a problem. Okay. So hotels. Hotel capacity will be limited to 50% in common areas. So again, there'll be spacing in the hotels, but they can have all the rooms open. It's open for all guests. Pools. We don't have any rules back on the condo pools and hotel pools yet, anything explicit, because we just convinced the Mayor Jimenez, I think it was the call on Sunday, to open pools. So the county's been looking at that, but we explained to him that it's very important. It would take a lot of pressure off the beach if we can open up condo and hotel pools the same time that we open the beach up. So what we're able to do is he agreed to that, and so far that's still holding, thank goodness. But we weren't sure because it was kind of on the fly. But we're expecting details on this soon. But I think common sense prevails. Again, 6 feet between lounge chairs. If you're in a condominium and somebody uses a chair and they leave, the condo probably should have somebody that can wipe the chair down for the next usage. Because again, this is how germs spread. So we want to maintain the distance between folks that are lounging around a pool, and again, common sense prevails. So I believe it'll be similar set of rules to the beach, and we go from there. Okay, so that's kind of where we sit today on beaches, hotels, and pools. And I'm very happy that we were able to get the condo pools open again, because I know we've had a lot of consternation over folks not having access to their pool. And I agreed with most of the comments I got. Pools have chlorine. In some ways, you could argue they're safer than the beach, safer than the ocean. But in any case, it looks like that this will also happen on Monday. Now we're going to modify a bunch of our city orders that we had. We had 4 emergency orders. We're rescinding some and we're amending a few. And this is all also going to happen on June 1st. Okay, so obviously we're going to rescind emergency order number 1. And this releases any restrictions on condo hotel pools. We just talked about that. But gym and fitness centers will remain closed. The county has not authorized the gym and fitness centers. So, and then it's also going to rescind the city issued curfew. We don't see a need for the curfew anymore. So that's emergency order number 1. Emergency order number 2, we're going to rescind. This allows for hotels to reopen for all travelers. Before, you could have a hotel open for what we call essential travelers. So if you had to travel for essential business, you could check into a hotel. This happened a lot with the blood center. I had folks that had to move around for the blood center, and they could get a hotel room, when they came to town. So, but now hotels will be open for all travelers. Okay, and we're also going to order number 2. We're going to rescind the city's order to remain open at home for anything other than essential business. But the county's safer at home order remains. But what we're saying is that we had an order that you had to stay at home other than essential business. That's getting rescinded. Okay, number 3. Occupied existing multifamily residential building construction. So if you remember, the governor's order didn't allow us to stop construction in the high-rises, but we were able to stop construction where people were occupying buildings. So we had a lot of folks that were concerned when there were construction workers coming in and out of a condo building or a multifamily building about those activities. So we stopped that. We're rescinding that order on June 1st. So it's going to permit all construction activities in multifamily buildings, subject to any further restrictions by the condo board. So again, a condo board can put restrictions on that limit these activities to the extent that they want to do that. But as far as the city's order is concerned, that was emergency order number 3. That's getting rescinded. Okay. And then we're going to amend emergency order number 6. And this is limited park reopening guidelines. This will provide for the reopening of the city pier. We've had a lot of inquiries about the pier under what we call the new normal guidelines, requiring 10 feet between each person fishing. So the operating hours will be the same as the beach. The pier will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And again, 10 feet between fishermen. And same as the beach. If the fishermen aren't adhering to the rules, we're going to have to close the pier. So please, if you go fishing, please stay 10 feet apart and just, and adhere to social distancing. So those are the big issues. We talked about beaches, we talked about hotels, we talked about pools, condo and hotel pools, and then we talked about, we're lifting our curfew, we're lifting our restrictions on hotel travelers. We're allowing activities in multifamily buildings again, and the big one for us from a park standpoint is we're going to reopen the pier. So those are probably the big key issues that we wanted to convey during this workshop. And what I want to do now is I want to see if the commission, anybody from the commission wants to speak, and give them some time. So, Dana, you want to go first? You got to come off of mute if you want to talk.
So, hi everyone. I just received an inquiry from a resident, one of the high rises in the city, a couple of hours ago, and their question was about the gyms. So, in my understanding, the gyms are not by county order open yet. So, but the question arises as to when these gyms are actually opened, what involvement will the city have in policing and enforcement? And I think that dovetails into a larger issue and that involves the police department as well and code enforcement. How much involvement is the city going to have in terms of when there are restrictions, but guidelines on the operation of the pools, of the gyms, and so forth? How is that going to be calibrated? Yeah. What's the role of the city?
Okay, so let's be realistic. We do not have enough police, code enforcement, but we don't have enough to do all this. And the fact is, when folks were asking us to open our beaches early and do this and do that, we couldn't have enforced it. We don't have enough enforcement. So the point is that I believe when it comes to the condos, common sense is going to have to prevail. To your point, Dana, I mean, we and I have talked about this many times. I mean, we don't have enough enforcement to put somebody at every condo. And I believe our phone's going to start ringing off the hook in the beginning, because I believe that, given the fact of so much frustration at the condos. Now, ironically, when we were on the phone on Sunday with Mayor Jimenez and I was pushing to open the pools up, one of the things I said, you don't have to worry about enforcement at condos. He said, what do you mean? I said, everybody will call. I said, if somebody steps out of line or the pools aren't distanced or the gyms aren't getting, I go, they're going to call because everybody at the condo kind of gets feisty with their neighbors. So ironically, I do think that we're going to get a lot of calls, but I also think it's going to be really important for people to self-govern like they're supposed to, at the condo boards are supposed to do in the first place. Why? Because if it's not working, we're going to close it. It's just that simple.
That's exactly what I advised the resident of one of the high rises, which is the city doesn't have the bandwidth to do it. And their first stop should be to contact their condominium association attorney, because they're going to have to implement their own rules of the road, their own protocols, sanitization, distancing, check-in, check-out procedure, the gyms and so forth. Yep. So that's really, for me, it's really not about the city. It's about the interaction with their association attorney to really effectively and fairly implement that. So that was my point, but I just wanted to hear it.
The city should say.
Great, and that's the point, Dana. I mean, I think again, we're in this new normal. Okay, we all have to take responsibility for it. It's not about the government. As much as the government, got involved and created all these rules and restrictions. I mean, the fact is everybody did a really good job. And quite frankly, that's why the government feels comfortable relaxing some of the standards now. Now, quite frankly, I'm not in love with this, okay? I probably know too much, as you all know. I mean, I'm not in love with what we're doing. but it's not my call either. You know, it's at the state, federal, and county level that's a lot of these calls. So the fact is that everybody's done a really good job of, you know, staying at home, you know, maintaining these standards, and this is why the curve is flattened. And so they're going to have to do a really good job in their own neighborhoods as well, in their own condominiums, because otherwise it's going to get, you know, it's going to get crazy, and we're going to have to then put restrictions back on. So I think it's a great question, Dana, and I appreciate you bringing it up, because ultimately everybody's got to take some personal responsibility going forward. So anything else on your end, Dana? Okay, great. Alex, you want to go next? Got to go off mute.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Yeah, just to Dana's point and what you talked about, Bud. You know, reading all these guidelines that buildings have to implement, that businesses have to implement, it's a lot of things to do. Obviously, you know, it boils down to personal responsibility, I think. You know, that's the bottom line. And one point that I'm concerned with is that, you know, you have people that are very lax with their approach to this pandemic. Then you have people that are very strict about it. And then you have people that are like more commonsensical about it. My concern is that, you know, when you have people from a building or people from businesses trying to enforce some of these rules, there's going to be some, you know, friction there. And it's probably going to boil down to some verbal dispute, and hopefully it won't boil down to or escalate to some sort of, you know, physical aggression. So that's pretty much my concern. Chief, you're probably going to get a lot of calls as we open up.
And, you know, Alex, but it parallels, Dana's a resident that, you know, that wrote in as well, because ultimately, again, you know, we can't police everyone. You know, you can't do it. And
I agree with that. I agree with that.
I know. But what I'm hoping is, I was really impressed with how the public has responded to this. You know, I was really impressed with it, and I'm hoping that, you know, that people understand that what we're doing now is kind of a luxury, if you will, because I think I question if we're ready to do this or not yet, but I also understand the frustration of the public and the need to kind of get back to some kind of new normal. But I'm also hoping that everybody's going to kind of behave, you know, and, you know, behave properly. And I think maybe we'll get pleasantly surprised, because ultimately, even the shelter in place, the shelter at home, I mean, it all worked. I mean, everybody did what they were supposed to do. I think, to your point, Alex, what's going to happen is there's different attitudes toward the level of interaction. You know, I get I've said it many times, half the emails and calls I get are, you know, it's a wonderful thing, keep it locked down, you know, because we're all being careful. The other half I get are, how could you step on my civil liberties, and, you know, this is all BS and we should be open up. So it's really split down the middle, I think, in people's attitudes. You know, I tend to be more on the conservative side. I've said that, you know, many times. I tend to be more on the conservative side, but I'm hoping that in general, everybody, you know, with the condos, they can reconcile, you know, what's balanced, and we go from there. But I think you make a great point, because, you know, the chief's only got, how many sworn officers? Not that many. So.
56, but we're currently
at. There we go. At 22,000 residents. So the officer.
No, overall, I think, you know,
yeah.
No, overall, I mean, people have been very, very good. They've been very responsible. So a big thank you to our residents, because I think they've helped a lot. Yes.
Agreed. I agree. So, Alex, anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Jennifer.
Hi, there's actually some work or construction in the unit above. So if you hear some banging, it's because of those buildings that allow it.
It's not legal. Let's do first.
But no, I agree. I think the personal responsibility is, I mean, it all comes down to personal responsibility. I think, you know, Floridians have done well. And my theory is that it's our hurricane brains kicked in early on, and we knew how to hunker down in a way that other other people in the United States just don't have that switch. I know I was aching to like go fill my tank and I couldn't explain it because there was nothing that said I had to do it, but that's just the hurricane training that we have. So that has helped us, I think, work through this frustration. Aside from the condo issues, which ultimately we're going to have to manage at that condo level, and coupled with that personal responsibility, my other concern is, as we're reopening businesses, how are we going to manage the places where, the social distancing and the guidelines are not being followed, right? That's outside of the condos, bars and the like. I reached out to Chris about it. I've gotten a few questions in terms of, well, what do I do? It's 10 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock. It's not like I don't necessarily want to go to the police station right now. It's not what they want to do. So I think maybe we can speak to that a little bit. Like, how does a resident report or handle when they show up to a place that's crowded and it's clear that the guidelines are not being followed?
So I think we have to take it as it comes. Honestly, I think we're walking into an unprecedented situation, where we've never had restrictions like this before. We've never experienced, this level of dislocation of everything we do. If you think about it, everything we do and everything in this city that we probably hold dear, like, our beach, our restaurants, our retail, it's all getting upended. And so I really believe that we're going to have to take it as it comes and look at it. And so clearly, if somebody sees something completely out of line at 9 o'clock at night and they think it's egregious, they can call the police, because code enforcement isn't up at that time, obviously. But I do believe, Chris has got, Chris and Susan have got their people kind of, in staggered shifts and things along those lines. They're going to manage into it the best we can. But again, I really just think we're going to have to take it as it comes. I don't think we have all the answers right now, for better or for worse. So,
right.
Yeah.
I just want to add, to those listening, like, if you show up to a place and it's crowded, don't add to the problem. Go
home.
It's. Yeah. I know that wasn't the plan, but you're only going to make it worse and endanger yourself. If they're not being careful, don't put yourself in jeopardy.
Yeah. Very good point. So, and that's the thing. Again, we're back to this self-preservation kind of mode where, if you go to the beach and it's overwhelmed, maybe it's a bad day to go to the beach. We may look at it. And I hate to say that, but it is what it is. We're just going to have to manage into this the best we can, and everybody's got to take personal responsibility. That's the thing. So I think that's what we're going to see unfold here. I'm optimistic. I'll be honest with you, because I think everybody's taken a lot of personal responsibility to date. So, I'm reasonably optimistic. So we'll see. So anything else, Jennifer?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. Before I call on the vice mayor, I want to thank the vice mayor publicly, because I have been extremely busy with OneBlood, and Larissa has covered a lot of things for me. I've been doing a lot of juggling between OneBlood and the city. Obviously, this is an extraordinary time to be an elected official, and an extraordinary time to be running a blood center, I can tell you. So it's kind of hit me. It kind of whipsawed me a little bit. I literally, I haven't taken a day off in about probably 10 weeks now. But I want to thank the vice mayor, because she's done she's covered a lot of things for me. And between her and Chris and Susan and the chief, everybody's kind of really helped me out a lot. So I appreciate it. So Larissa, with that, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope that you indulge me. I have a few questions that I wanted to bring up specifically from residents, but also my questions after hearing everybody else. And the fact that we have 49 attendees. I don't think we've ever had this many attend a workshop. So I'd like to be able to touch on some things. To Commissioner Vizcarra's point about how do residents, what's the best way to put it, tell when they see something that's wrong. I believe we have a hotline. that they can call right now? Is that something that we can give people right now to write down? The phone number, Susan, perhaps, or Chris?
Yes, the COVID hotline is 305-792-1759.
And that's for COVID, not necessarily code.
That is COVID. It can include complaints, questions, pretty much anything. We've had quite the array of calls come in on that line. Since March, we've had about 92, a little over 90 calls come in, and we respond, we say within 48 hours, but it's been much quicker.
That's great. And okay, so for the purposes of communication, because that's something that's come up as well, and because, as the mayor said, information has been changing on a regular basis, what's the best way for residents to get that communication? Should they go on social media? Should they go on our website? Should they call the hotline? What's the best way?
So the absolute best way is our SIB alert, which you can sign up through our website. That one, that's for everything that is new and breaking news. So even, everything. And then our email blast, which is the Notify Me link on our website on the homepage. That is a great way to do that. We have over 6,000 people signed up for our email blasts. We have a pretty decent open rate on those. I know the mayor's letter recently had at least 1/3 of the people who received it opened it and read it. So thank you to those who are listening. I did see a comment pop in. Somebody asked me to repeat the COVID hotline number. That was 305-792-1759. And just because Vice Mayor asked, if you go to our website, sibfl.net, is where you can sign up for our email blasts. So that's a great way to get the information.
And if someone calls the hotline and they don't speak English, or they speak Portuguese or Russian or Spanish, somebody will call them back that speaks their language.
Yes, they would leave a message. I don't think we've had a language yet that we have not been able to respond to.
Okay. And then I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot, because I know that you and your team have done a really great job in getting meals to our elderly. And that really has not been put out there. And I think that it's important that the people on this call know that. Do you happen to know how many meals not meals, but the groceries were delivered?
So it was mostly groceries, yes. And I'm going to have to look that up. I'm sorry. We to date had 215 grocery bags delivered, with 40 more going out this weekend.
Okay. And with that being said, I want to give credit to the school and the school PTSA. They were able to feed twice, one time 600 people and one time 1,000 people, which, I think is phenomenal. It had really nothing to do, in my opinion, with the need as far as more the connection. People really wanted to see each other the best that they can. So I appreciate them, and I appreciate, Susan, all that you did. I have another question. That's okay, Mayor? Okay. So the curfew, it's being lifted. So do we have any restaurants that are open past 11 o'clock so that people aren't, I guess, freaking out and seeing people out, and because the clubs aren't open and bars aren't open, just restaurants? Chris or Susan?
Was that for me? Yes, we have restaurants that would be open past 11 now.
We do. Okay, but
Yes.
the bars are still not open.
Correct. Bars are not permitted to be open,
Okay.
including a bar inside of a restaurant. So if it's a restaurant that has a bar area, patrons may not sit at the bar area of a restaurant.
Wow. Okay. That's good. Thank you for clarifying it. And then I know that myself and all the commissioners have school-age children. So the big question is, what's happening with summer camp if we're able to share right now?
Chris, you want me to take that?
Yes, we are not ready to make any decisions on summer camp at this point.
Okay.
I would argue, I want to manage expectations. It's highly unlikely.
I figured, just wanted to
It's
put it out
highly
there.
unlikely. Very, very difficult, because we're not even sure. I'm really questioning what's going to happen with schools in the fall. I don't know. I don't have any inside information. haven't talked to the school board, but understanding what we're up against in terms of distancing and children and managing, it's very, very difficult. So, so it'll be, I think that one we're just going to have to play by ear.
Okay. And then as far as the pier and the parking, so all our parking lots are open, is that correct, Chris?
Our parking lots are going to be open. They are open. They're going to be open to residents only. And just during the hours that the beach can be open, because you have to remember there are restaurants on the beach that aren't open yet, but will be, I assume.
So the pier parking is going to close at 8 o'clock?
It will close the same time that the parks close.
Okay, I just wanted to.
The beach, in this case.
Until the restaurant opens.
Until the restaurant opens, okay.
Right.
All right. And then I have a question. I've gotten a lot of emails about Golden Shores. We have in Golden Shores a lot of additional pedestrians and bikes, and a lot of people are coming there to get exercise, which is great. But also people have been concerned about the safety. So what have we done so far? And maybe Chris or Chief, I don't know, could just respond to, and specifically to Golden Shores, which has seen an uptick in bikes and pedestrians exercising.
Not anymore.
Go ahead.
Atlantic Island, there are droves of people on Atlantic Island as well, Larissa, so it's the same. But I'm going to let the chief answer, but public streets, I mean, my neighbors started saying, hey, there's too many people on the street, there's this, there's that. They're public streets. I mean, so and people are walking, they're walking as families, but they're distance, there's nothing, I think when the beach opens back up, it's going to take all the pressure off.
Okay.
But, because these are people that would normally walk on the beach, but Atlantic Island had the same thing. My neighbors were really getting pretty feisty with me in the beginning, and I'm like, it's a public street. So, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on that one, but Chris, go ahead.
I want the chief has had a program over there now for at least 2 or 3 weeks that's been working out pretty well. One of the other things we tried to start informing. I mean, obviously with the beaches being open, it should take some pressure off of that, because there certainly was a number of people coming that aren't from the neighborhood, and certainly it's public roads in a public area. But one of the things we did try to do is start to encourage people to use our interior walkways and pathways. And, we've got it where the city has spent over the past 8-10 years quite a bit of money on adding, widening, replacing sidewalks, not to mention the pedestrian emergency bridge and the connection from Golden Shores to go south and, then get back out of the Collins area, which has been our focus for a long time now, to get people off of Collins and in the back paths and roads and sidewalks. Few people learned something they didn't know before about how far they really can walk. Between that and the police there, and I'll let the chief speak.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see everyone. Hope everybody's well. Just to add on what city manager said, yes, we have been increasing our patrols back in the Golden Shores area. It's really given our officers a great opportunity just to actually interact with the public, because there are a lot of them out there. They're walking, they're cycling, and it's given us the opportunity to actually remind people about helmet safety and things along those lines. So it's been a good response, and we try to get in there right about the time that the kids are finishing up their cyber schoolwork, and we're there usually until it turns dark and such. So it's been a very, very good turnout for us as well. So.
Okay, I appreciate that. I personally see it. We got a dog recently, so maybe I'm just noticing it more because I'm walking around more. But thank you for that additional presence. And then, lastly, I want to reiterate what the mayor said, and a big thank you to the staff and to Chris and Susan and the chief. They're literally working 24/7. They're in the office all the time. I'm calling them at horrible times during the day, so I'm sorry, and I appreciate you answering the phone, and I think that the residents appreciate it, and they certainly see it, because I don't believe that there's any other city that has as many residents as we do, and has only the last count was 9, and so that's because of your hard work and the residents, the kind of residents we have. No other city has these kinds of residents, so I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate everyone on the call, and and all of our residents at in following the rules. So thank you for indulging me with all my question.
Thank you, Larissa.
I want to add something. Hold on. Susan, Sylvia, and Chris, just wanted to let you know about the food distribution list. You know, I've talked to a few residents that are on that list, and you have no idea how thankful they are. I mean, they tell me the city's wonderful. They call me also to see if I'm okay. So they really appreciate that. And I've gotten, you know, a lot of compliments about it. And it feels good. So I just wanted to let you know that the people are very happy. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Great job.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Steph. Thank you to Chris and Susan, Chief, everybody. Okay. I've got about 9 questions here. A lot of them have been answered. So I'm going to, I've got about 9 questions here. I'm going to read through the questions, and then we're going to go to the chat after I read through the questions. So the first question was from Margaret Lloyd, and it was regarding the reopening of the beaches and pools. I think we spoke to that at length. Again, the next question was from Arlene, and it said, can the city consider reopening the beach to residents? Again, we spoke to that. And again, I want to emphasize, the city doesn't make these decisions. I'm not passing the buck, but the city doesn't make these decisions. It's ultimately the governor, and then the governor cedes the authority to the county to the county mayor. So these decisions, even if we wanted to open the beach, and a lot of folks said, can we just open it for residents? Can this, can that? We couldn't. So I have a question here from Carlos Cazadilla, and it was regarding the pier, and we answered that. The pier is opening. So Carlos, thanks for your advocacy around the pier. When will we be able to play doubles tennis at Oceania? From Paul Lucy, looks like. I have no idea. So what is the deal with doubles tennis? Is that not permitted, Susan?
It's still not permitted.
Okay,
You
sorry.
haven't loosened up that much.
Okay, sorry, Paul, but that's a good question. Doubles tennis. That's a new one on me.
Mayor, if I can make one comment.
Sure.
We did receive just earlier this afternoon, before this meeting, the county mayor's guidelines have been updated. Haven't had a chance to even read them yet. It does have the guides for the swimming pools, hotels and accommodations. Let's see, is there anything else? I think that was it. The beach ones are there. I don't know if they tweaked the beach ones, but it just came out.
Okay.
And we sent it to the commission just before the meeting started.
Great. So what we'll do is, when I don't want to post all the interim ones because it'll drive you nuts because they change. So when we get they're going to be here by June 1st, that's for sure. So next 3 days, we're going to have them. When we get the final guidelines, the final requirements, we'll post them on the website. But like I said, in the meantime, at least they're following through and the pools are going to be open. I was a little nervous that folks may think about it, they may backtrack and this and that because that was on the fly on Sunday, but it looks like it's going to stick. So that's a good thing. Okay. So we answered the one. So Alex Fields has a 3-part question here. East side of Collins Avenue, sidewalk is polluted with seeds from palms. It's dangerous. The seeds attract rats. Palms need to be trimmed on a regular basis. So Chris, what's the story with the palms?
I'm going to let Susan answer this one.
So the palms I believe he is referring to are on private property. All the palms on the east side of Collins Avenue are on private property. So when we notice it through code or public works, code enforcement visits the particular property owner and gives them a warning notice of violation. And if they don't rectify it within a certain period of time, then they are issued a citation, a fine.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Westbound 163rd Street. Alex is talking about this before. Needs to control better by police because of speeding and noise. We need to have police presence on a regular basis. Well, I got pulled over the other day, so I can tell you that much stuff. I know that they're there. And it was westbound. But Chief, you want to speak to westbound 163rd and enforcement?
Absolutely. And I do appreciate Mr. Fields calling. We have received his concerns and we've looked into it and we will continue to look into it. we do realize, as much as we would like to have a 100% perfect record when it comes to traffic violations in our city, that probably is not a realistic goal, but traffic safety is one of our utmost important things that we do every day. And we have taken a tremendous amount of time and effort to put together a traffic mitigation strategy with high visibility. And unfortunately, this COVID situation kind of slowed us down a little bit on our enforcement activities because we needed to make sure that we preserve the health and safety of our workforce. But we are getting back to it with a no tolerance type of mentality. I can tell you, we did put that speed trailer out westbound, and we had it there from the 6th to the 19th. The good news is the average speed of the cars going there is only 31.42 miles per hour. But that still does not, again, that's just a stat that we look at, but we do realize that there are people that are traveling faster than they should be, and we're going to be on it, and, you're going to see a lot more activity out there. The other thing that we did, I'm not going to throw out a bunch of statistics because I don't want that to turn into a statistical slideshow, but, when I had our admin sergeant look up the amount of cars that come into our city over the last 90 days, it's a staggering number. It really is. It's over 7 million cars. And that's during a slow time with the COVID thing going on. So the amount of traffic that we have and the amount of pedestrians we have out walking, it's a staggering number. So, we're going to be on it. We appreciate Mr. Fields, letting us know about it, and we'll continue to monitor it and do our job.
If I may chime in on this, part of the problem, because that's literally next to where I live. It's these vehicles that have these, I guess they're modified mufflers. I don't know what they are, but they just make a tremendous amount of noise. And it sounds like they're going very fast, but they're not. They're just incredibly loud, rude, and obnoxious. I understand that they're legal, but for those of you who are out there listening, if you're among those people, please just stop it. It's very disruptive to those of us who live and have to put up with that, and it echoes and it bounces off the buildings in Saint Tropez and here and in Intracoastal. It's disruptive, and in the middle of the night, it's very unpleasant. I've seen them. I've seen them even in the, because I do a lot of walking, and you would swear that they're going 90 miles an hour, and they're just, going 10. It's just loud, unnecessarily loud. So that's part of the issue. It's not even speeding.
Okay. So, right. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Chief, and everyone for your comments. So, John Higgins writes, I recommend opening the beach for active use only. Walking, swimming, jogging, surfing on June 1st. It'll be difficult to properly distance if the beach is full of chairs, umbrellas, and canopies. If chairs are allowed, how much distance between groups of chairs? And people can walk between them, can maintain social distance. How will this be enforced? So I think we talked about the chairs. So John and I'm very aligned with John because, as I mentioned, the first meeting we had of the coastal mayors, I said, why don't we open the beach for 2-lane walking? So like the southbound walks along the shoreline and northbound walks along the upland. And I felt like we could have probably had that all along and been able to enforce that and then ease back into the chair and the actual lounging now. But it didn't fly. The county just didn't feel like it was going to be manageable, and we weren't allowed to do something on our own like that. That wasn't permissible. But I really felt from the beginning we could have taken a lot of pressure off of the streets and everything else by having the beach open for walking, and I felt that was very manageable, because we could have had 2 lanes of traffic. And so, but it didn't fly. And I agree with you, John, because ultimately, if that has been going on for the last, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks, the lifeguards can watch the people walking and they're properly distanced and whatever, and you stay in your lane. I think it would have been this would have been a lot smoother transition. But because we didn't do that, now there's a lot of pressure on opening up, and now there's a lot of pressure on just, on the lounges and everything else. So like we talked about earlier, we're going to do our best, from an enforcement standpoint. But if people go crazy, it's going to get closed again. You know, it's going to get closed again. And if it gets closed again, I'm going to advocate again for this walking, for maybe we can do something with walking, you know. And I wasn't even advocating for swimming. I just wanted a place where folks could go walk, because the swimming opens up. You got to leave your stuff on the beach. You got to try to distance where you leave your stuff. And are you in the pool? Are you in the beach, in the water within a congregate, you know, in a congregation? I mean, that creates its own enforcement issues. But unfortunately, you know, it's not unfortunate, but we're going to see how it goes. It's the whole enchilada. You know, swimming, walking, jogging, surfing, lounging, sunbathing, the whole 9 yards, all on June 1st. So we'll see where that takes us. But John, very good comment. Thank you. Catherine Schultz, MD. I'm concerned that as we reopen the beaches in Sunny Isles Beach, the old habit of covering the sand in front of each condo with hundreds of chairs and umbrellas will resume unless the strict rules and regulations are enforced. I request that initially we only open the beach for active use. Okay, same type of line of same type of a line of questioning as John pointed out. So again, that area will be, the chairs have to be distanced. Even the condo chairs, when they put out concession chairs, they've got to be distanced, and they're at 50% capacity. So I think again, I think it's a great comment, and it speaks to the comment that, you know, the explanation just made earlier. But we're going to do our best to see how it plays out. Okay, last question. What are we doing? This is from Pavel. I got to turn my light on. Hold on. I'm sorry. Real quick. It's getting dark in here. Okay. Much better. It was getting darker. I couldn't see. Okay. This is from Pavel Stove. And we have 3 questions there. What are we doing now and in the immediate future to prevent more deaths and injuries due to traffic incidents involving pedestrians and or bicyclists traveling along Collins Avenue? Chief, you want to, well, first of all, if anybody's been along Collins Avenue lately, every third block there's a police car sitting in the median with their lights on, most of the time. You know, I think that our police have done a great job of creating a lot more presence along Collins Avenue to mitigate speeding. But Chief, you want to speak to that one?
Absolutely. And again, it's been part of our traffic mitigation plan to increase visibility, which we have found to be very effective. Pedestrian traffic crashes, you can't say anything other than the fact that they're tragic. But the city has really done a great job all the way around. And I have to compliment our city manager and our commission and for having the vision and the forethought to think about these things like overhead pedestrian bridges that will be online pretty soon. And the fact that we put the pedestrian bridge over on the west side to take some of that pedestrian traffic off of Collins Avenue. But again, as I pointed out, there are so many vehicles that are traveling through Sunny Isles Beach on a daily basis. And then you factor in the amount of pedestrians that we have. And even one tragic accident is too many, but obviously, you know, we have to work with our pedestrians, and that's going to be part of our plan moving forward, is to continue to have pedestrian workshops to try to make them understand. We have done those in the past. We use a company called Walk Safe. They come out and then we do sidewalk presentations and things along those lines. Going back to safety, you know, even cyclists and things along those lines, we have given out and fitted over 200 or 300 helmets in the last couple of years. So our bicyclists are in a better and a safer place. So again, we're certainly doing our best to mitigate that, but unfortunately, you know, traffic crashes are tragic, and I'd like to say we could stop them. I'd like to be able to bubble wrap every single person, but unfortunately, you know, they're going to happen from time to time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chief. Okay. Why did you allow non-resident construction workers to enter and propagate through the city on a regular basis during a public health emergency with stay-at-home orders? Okay. We didn't allow it. The governor did. The governor deemed construction an essential service. What we did was we were able to at least create, we couldn't stop construction, but we could deem wearing masks, social distancing, what have you. So, and we did. So Chris, the city manager and the building official basically put restrictions in place very early on in all this, as far as workers were concerned, construction workers were concerned, and it worked, quite frankly. In the very beginning, I had a lot of calls on construction workers, and I think once everybody started seeing the workers towing the line, the call stopped, which we appreciated. But again, if you look at the governor's original order, he deemed construction an essential service. I'm not going to say there wasn't politics involved, because there probably was, because, could we argue that construction is an essential service for a luxury condominium? That's pretty arguable. But the fact is obviously but that's his privilege. That's his right, So again, this was not something that we had control over. And I hate to sound like I'm passing the buck on this stuff, but, it is what it is. There's 4 levels of government: federal, state, county, and municipal. We're at the bottom of the totem pole there in terms of our ability to influence policy. Okay. Third question: why did you choose not to challenge Miami-Dade Mayor's restrictive orders, which he issued in the past few months? First of all, I agreed with a lot of his restrictive orders. Okay, so you may not have agreed with them, but I did. Okay, and I quite frankly, I'm not in love with the fact that we're opening up, because I think we're opening up too early. But I understand the social and the economic implications of staying closed. I'm not blind to that, and I understand it. I just hope that people will take care and people will be careful. We pushed back on the county mayor where we thought we would have some ability to influence him. He's a tough guy. He's a smart guy. He's a very experienced guy. He was the fire chief, and he was also a city manager. So this is a guy that's very, very well schooled in government. But we pushed back on the orders that we thought that were difficult. The one place we made hay was the condo pools. So we were able to get the condo pools open. And so that was that's how we dealt with the county mayor. Last question: how do you protect SIB's residents' civil liberties? Okay, that's a good question too. Well, I think that our first priority is to protect your health and safety. That's our first priority. If we have to restrict some civil liberties in doing that, so be it. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. It's not an easy job, I can tell you, over the last 4 months. It's never been an easy job. It has particularly been a difficult job over the last 3 or 4 months, and I think every one of my colleagues on the commission feels the same way. Okay? The reason why it's been difficult is because everybody's got a different opinion about what's going on. And social media doesn't help, I can tell you. My own perspective is born out of dealing with the federal government health authorities a lot. The FDA, the CDC, I deal with BARDA. I deal with them all because of the blood center. So where you hear me maybe speak, toward a mindset of being a little bit more restrictive, it's simply because I get a lot of government data that I have that I know is accurate. And frankly, that shapes a lot of my opinions because I run the blood center. I do a lot of testing through the blood center. We manage the blood supply and I understand what goes on. So when it comes to your civil liberties, it's a balancing act, because we have to protect the health and safety of our residents. We were one of the first cities in Miami-Dade County to act, and my commission stood right up there with me. We acted very, very quickly in terms of starting to create some restrictions. And once again, half the residents agreed, half the residents didn't agree. I can tell you, but, we acted in a way that we thought was best for our community. And that's the long and the short of it. So I wish, I really appreciate the question because I think it speaks to the core of everybody having different opinions here. So, okay. So that was the public comments that were submitted by email or in writing ahead of the meeting. And so now we've got a chat here. Okay, so let's parse through the chats here. Let me go back to the beginning. Okay. So from Barbara to all panelists, I have a question. So, Mauricio, do you see that one? That's the first one after the commission banter here.
Yes, I see that, Mayor, but she didn't type in her answer and she does not have her hand raised.
Okay,
Unless she's listening and she wants to, she can raise her hand and then we'll call on her at the end.
okay. From Greg to all panelists, I want a lounge. What does that mean? Anything there, Mauricio?
No, nothing.
From Sam Felder, can condos present chairs on the beach? Susan, I think the answer is yes. Go ahead. Okay, yeah, you're on mute. Can't hear you.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes, condos can preset chairs under the same guidelines that were prior to that certain area, but they do need to go onto the Miami-Dade new normal guide for the restrictions and the requirements as to how they can do that. We will also, we do have an email list for every condo, and we will email the condo, the guides, the sections that apply to them. So hotels, condos, we'll send it to them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Sam. From K&M Suarez, can you please, so we repeated the COVID hotline number. Repeat it one more time, Susan, just so we have
It's 305-792-1759. And again, that's the COVID hotline.
That's
I
the
can
COVID
give you the
hotline.
code. Do you want the code complaint hotline as well?
I think this is a COVID call. So let's stick
Okay.
with the COVID. Not confuse anybody. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Maria Daniela Estina, any news on the arrivals from the Northeast and the required 14-day quarantine? Is it still in effect, and how is this being monitored? Being monitored is a whole other story, but is it still, I asked this question to Chris last week. Last week it was still in effect. Chris, is it still in effect?
Yes, it's still in effect.
Okay. Being monitored is a whole other story. I have no idea how you monitor something like this unless they catch you at the airport, or we start looking for, I just don't see how it's enforceable. These kind of orders drive me crazy because, quite frankly, again, it's the complete honor system, because when you arrive, you're quarantining or not. How do I know when somebody drives into the city that they landed in Fort Lauderdale Airport and just flew down from New York? I have no idea. And it's, completely unrealistic to stop everybody that wants to come in and out of the city. We would have traffic backed up for days. So, Maria, your answer is yes, it's still in effect, but it's not being monitored. So, that's the long and the short of it. Okay, from, who is this? This is from Kathy. It says, what rules are there for the condo managed beach chairs? I think Susan just answered that. They'll be posted. The rules will be posted. I have, my name is Abraham Weinberg. I want to know when general contractors will be authorized to restart working in buildings. June 1st, Chris? June 1st. Okay. All right,
Providing
Abraham.
providing that your condo is permitting that.
Right, okay. The condo has to permit it. The condo can be more restrictive than the city, so the condo has to permit it, but the city emergency order that restricted multifamily construction in occupied buildings is lifted June 1st.
And make sure
Okay.
you have a permit. The building department's ready.
Okay, great. Samantha Felder, okay, Sam Felder, you gave her address here for the record. Mauricio's got that. Okay, is it possible from, who is this? Let me see here. I can't see the name. All I see is A and from AW. Is it possible to get a record of this meeting? Yes. You can reach out to the clerk after the meeting, and you can get a record of this meeting after the clerk. Okay. Rumi, can I speak? Mauricio, can I speak? I have my hand up. Can somebody speak, Mauricio? Does it work that
Yes,
way?
they can. We can. Do you want to go through the chat first and then?
Yeah, let me the chat, and then we'll come back to Rumi who wants to speak. Okay, yeah, I see Mauricio's answer here. Okay, Ella wants me to bring one of my buses here to Sunny Isles Beach for testing. Okay, so let me be clear. One Blood, when you donate blood, we will test your blood for the COVID antibody. We started that a couple of weeks ago. Ella's been giving me a hard time because we haven't had a bus in Sunny Isles for a little while. But honestly, Ella, I don't control that because of the conflict with me being the mayor and running the blood center. I think I mentioned that to you before. We got to go to the website and look. But I will find out from my people next time that a bus is scheduled to come to Sunny Isles. Susan, do you know that? Go ahead.
It was just here on, I believe it was Tuesday, May 12th, because I donated, and then it comes approximately every 6 to 8 weeks after that. So,
Okay.
Ella, we will email you when that is.
Okay. So
Can
Ella,
I comment on this?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jennifer.
For residents who are interested in getting tested, because there's places that you can do it only if you're symptomatic or only if you're at risk. But I recently, through one of the city articles, they had a link in there. I made the appointment here for the drive-thru at Bal Harbor, and it was fantastic. It was very professional. You go in. I was a little early. They saw me early, and I had my results within 2 hours. They just call you with the results. So there are options out there that people can, that are nearby, and you don't have to have symptoms. You can just go.
Ella wants an option within walking distance. So she made that clear to me. So Ella doesn't drive, so she wants an option within walking distance. But that to Jennifer's point, there's a lot of testing available now, in Bal Harbor, in Aventura. I mean, if you just want to go get tested, you can get tested. We started offering it as a kind of a perk to blood donors because, and our test that we have for One Blood is a very, very good test. It's an ortho test. It's a very, very, it's got like 99.9% accuracy. But thank you, Ella. Carlos, thank you for allowing residents to participate. Will the beach and pier be open? I think we answered that one. So thanks, Carlos. Thanks for calling. Thanks for writing in. Scott Fortney. Sorry. Is there a process that could be considered to slow the legal allowable speed on Collins Avenue? Yes, we would have to lobby the Department of Transportation, which we've talked to them about. We've talked to them about this many times. They are not. Their job is to keep traffic flowing. They want to do it safely. It gets frustrating sometimes because sometimes they don't want to make changes until a lot of bad things have happened. But they have a process, and it's called warrants. They go through a process where they study it, and then they make a determination. And we have approached them on this before, and they are not interested in lowering the speed limit, below 35 miles an hour. So, but I hear you, Scott, and thanks for writing in. Okay, Pavel has written again here. He was my last question here. Thank you for answering my questions. I want to clarify non-resident construction workers. I believe you mentioned in a newsletter that you had the option to implement more restrictive measures if construction was allowed. Again, why not? No, I can't stop the construction of the high rises. All we could do, but we could give people, we could put restrictions like on their ability. They got to wear masks. They got to distance. So we could put restrictions, but I did not have the authority to tell them they can't come to work. Okay. Okay. From Ron, all panelists, thank you for your dedication and service. You do a job well done. Now it's up to the residents to police ourselves. Ron Weisberg, 300 buildings, Arlene House. Thank you, Ron. You're right. It is up to the residents to police yourself. I think we all know that, IBIS, hotels are checking reservations to see where they are coming from. Effect till July 7th. I don't understand what IBIS is saying here.
Talking
Hotels
about the restriction on the tri-state area, I believe.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Oh, I see. Okay. That's on the. So I just answered the question on how do we monitor. So I guess hotels are responsible for checking reservations to see where they're coming from, and that's in effect till July 7th. So in other words, if somebody showed up from New York on a reservation, I guess the hotel would make they're supposed to self-quarantine. I guess that's what we're hearing here. Okay, Ella would also like to say something, Mauricio. So now we have Rumi and Ella, and Pavel again regarding traffic. Mr. Snyder, please consider increasing traffic enforcement, not just police presence. Okay, thank you, Pavel. Okay, Fabiola, congratulations for amazing leadership in protecting our city. Question: What's your question, Fabiola? Do you want to speak or do you want to write in your question? This is the last one I have right now. Okay, let's while Fabiola's crafting her question, we've got Rumi and Ella that want to speak, Mauricio. So let's let Rumi go first.
Okay. Rumi, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rumiana Gruzdanova, 220, 186 Tanzania. I want to say thank you very much. I hear so many questions. Who is right, who is not? But I can say this city hall is working very hard and prove the result. We have a 22,000 residents and we have only 9 cases. The mayor explained very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. You did very good explanation on the email several times. If everybody read carefully, they can understand what is going on and how it's supposed to be. And you really care about, because from the blood donation, the people can be not symptoms, but they can be with the virus. So all this restriction for the mask, everything, that is very helpful for everybody. Everybody has to understand what is okay, what is not okay. And I'm so glad you didn't open the beach. I know it's from Miami-Dade. I just don't know when did you make a meeting and voting to be open early the beach, because everybody see on the TV what happened with Daytona Beach, Boynton Beach.
Yeah.
That's now, right now, for 1 week, Broward County raised the cases 7%, which is a lot. And only because everybody rushed to the beach with no distance, no mask, nothing. That was very, very, very well to not be open early. I don't know who thinks it's for good for the resident. No, that's not was safety. Everybody from North Miami, Miami Garden, everywhere, the same things like Boynton Beach. I want also to say thank you very much for the Vice Mayor, Larissa Svechin. What she did, this organization, for the other people who doesn't have a car to go shopping, and used to they go with the shutters from the city hall. So how they do? They did delivery, which is great. I have somebody call me, was so very, very happy, surprised for her. Which organization? Who did? Larissa. I want to mention something else. Christopher Russo, what he did about all the parks, how to walk one way, tape all the bench. How many questions everybody asks, everybody thinks he is right to ask for this. But how hard is to deal with the Miami-Dade or the government or the health department? Nobody realized that. You really did very hard job. That's my conclusion. And they who doesn't realize, I'm sorry. Even for the one Sunday, I called. I said, let me call and left message for Monday morning when they hear my message to call me, because I was concerned about the testing. I see Aventura, I called Sunday afternoon, even late afternoon, on Larissa to leave the message. She picked up the phone. I said, what are you doing on Sunday? Oh my God, she said, we're dealing here with Chris. We're working together. Tomorrow is going to be everybody. The next day was, I don't remember the date, but everybody who wanted to go to Bay Harbor can do the test. and she explained me because our city is not big enough to come from Bay Harbor. What surprise! That is a very good. That is a thinking. If somebody wants to go there, like Jennifer said, yes, she went there. Is no problem. Is very professional and no problem. What about? I don't know. For me, everybody working hard, even the police station. Yes.
Thank
Everybody is working very hard and supposed to be recognized because have people stay home, they just know to talk. But for me, who prove if we have it only 9 cases, that is 9 cases is nothing. That means the city take a good care. That's definitely.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
I want to say thank you for Mauricio. He's doing excellent job with this meeting because we are not there, but we see each other. Thank you very
Rumi.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rumi. All right. Thanks for the kind words, Rumi. Thank you very much. And by the way, just to be clear, the Department of Health, the State Department of Health statistics that says there's 9 cases of COVID in Sunny Isles are not accurate. I want to be crystal clear. I want everybody to know that. It doesn't take into consideration private labs. So in other words, if you go to Quest or LabCorp, it doesn't always get reported and folded into the state statistics. So I talk to the state surgeon general on a regular basis. I talk to their epidemiologist because, I interface a lot with them with OneBlood. Those numbers are not accurate. So don't get any sense of security that there's 7 cases in Sunny Isles, because I guarantee you there's a lot more. I'm not saying that it's terrible. I'm not saying we're overwhelmed, but I'm also saying that. But I'm also not saying that those numbers are accurate. So thank you. Okay, Ella, Mauricio, you want to light Ella up here?
Ella, go ahead.
Hi. First of all, thanks everybody. Really appreciate you putting this meeting together, and I'm glad you clarified the number of cases that have been stated here in Sunny Isles, because I'm sure it's very large. And like I said, there's a lot of people that don't drive in this city, and I'm an Uberite. I've been an Uberite for 2.5 years, and I'm not getting in an Uber and driving anywhere right now unless it's to play golf. So anyway, listen, the reason I wanted to talk is because we've had a problem with flooding in Deezer's property, which used to be the Rascal House and then Epicure. And I was walking by there a couple days ago, and I let the mayor know, and thank you very much for being so available, and Larissa, you too, and Alex, and of course, Chris, everybody else I haven't spoken to. But so I'm walking by, and it's flooded, and they've got big fire hoses pumping water out into 172nd Street, flooding the water. My shoes, my socks, soaking wet, but I had to walk through it in order to get to Collins Avenue up 172nd. And, I don't know how long he's owned that property. It's 12, 14 years. Could have fixed it a long time ago, whatever that problem is. And I just really resent him a great deal. Here's a guy who's developing property throughout our city, wants to develop more, but doesn't give it a second thought to flood our city and my feet and my socks and my shoes and people that are trying to walk to Collins Avenue by pumping his dirty water into our streets and on our sidewalks. That's not a good neighbor. And that's an indication of what we can expect from him moving forward. I'll tell you something, I'm really disappointed. Now, I want to know, why is that continuing? And why can't the city force him to fix the problem?
We can. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, when is that going to happen?
Well, he's got,
It's funny your storm the other day, but that's besides the point. Go ahead, Chris.
right. No,
I've noticed it a lot. I mean, it's not, this is
it gets flooded. Right.
Let him answer. Yeah,
Okay.
Let Chris answer.
So you're first of all, he was stopped at, that is not allowed to be pumping his water out onto the street like that. The problem with that property, and he has been cited numerous times, paid the fines on it, did initial work to clean out the wells there. But what happens over so many decades on a property like this, the deep wells that are on that property are filled up. They need to be re-drilled, redone, so to speak. And what he's been doing is, he gets to a point of cleaning it out that that subsides it for most storms, other than the small patches that you'd see on there from time to time. But we were hoping that he'd get a decent tenant or something in there that would motivate him to have to fix the wells now. But as time goes on, he will have more fines on this, and we should be able to code at some point, get him to do more in terms of the wells, really. But that has been a problem. They did make progress where it had gotten significantly better. What we have to see is, frankly, what happens after this storm with it.
Well, we have a hurricane season upon us.
Yeah.
And so, and we're coming into our rainy season. I just really resent the fact that he thought he could just pump that water right into my street, on my feet, on my sidewalk. So I have to walk through his mess. If this is the kind of neighbor he is, I have to tell you something. I'm so happy to know that you're fining him. But people with that kind of money, they'll let the fine run instead of spending the money to fix it. And again, I just want to thank all of you. You look beautiful. I don't know if you guys all did your own hair and makeup, but I really want to thank you all so much for putting this together. You're doing a great job. And again, thank you all, those that I've reached out to that have been so immediately available. And I guess that's the whole story.
Hey, Ella, can I add one more thing, Ella?
Sure.
And don't anybody ever repeat this again. His neighbor does the same thing.
Okay, let's make sure that I know, absolutely, RK. But for some reason his parking lot didn't flood this time, so he must have done something right.
Oh, yes, it did.
Did
Oh, my
it?
gosh.
Oh, I was in it.
Oh, okay.
It did.
Okay, well, let's take some action beyond fining at this time. I mean, they want to build, and one last thing, you saw what happened. I think it was Dallas. Remember, they had overbuilt and gotten rid of green spaces, and so when it flooded, there was no way for where the water could go. But these developers want to build on every single empty space we have in this city. And what's going to happen when we have torrential rains, downpours, hurricanes? Where is that water going to go? So thank you. I just please keep it in consideration as we move forward on the conversation of zoning. Take care, you guys.
Great. Thank you, Ella. Thank you very much. Okay, our last question here is from Fabiola. I think that was it for the verbals, right, Mauricio? That was it. Yep.
Yes, that was it.
Fabiola says, congratulations for amazing leadership, protecting our city. Thank you. Question, any update about the letter sent from the city to DOT about lane closures? Okay, I'm going to put Dana on the spot a little bit here. Let me be clear. Any commissioner can write any letter they want and use city letterhead, but it doesn't mean it came from the city. I disagree with that letter, but that letter was never floated past me or staff. Dana sent that letter on her own. It's Dana's prerogative. I don't take it away from Dana to be able to do that, but the fact is that was not a city position. That was Dana's position. Okay, Dana took that position. My personal opinion is the traffic's bad enough as it is. When it comes back online, it'll be mayhem if we try to close lanes on Collins Avenue. But that's Dana's position. So Dana, did the FDOT respond, and do you have any update?
So there were two prongs to this, and in fact, you've pretty much corroborated that the reduction in the speed limit is something that the city has advocated for in the past. So it's not like coming out of left field in terms of, the reduction in the speed limit. I have yet to hear back. It was in advocating for temporary lane closures for the bicyclists. But everybody knows in the city, what recently happened. And it's really, you had a situation in the city where you had a confluence of nowhere to walk, narrow sidewalks, outdoor construction, public works activities, and you also see a surge or a resurgence of a lot of bicyclists and really not a safe passageway for these bicyclists. So for me, I advocated for temporary closure of that. I haven't heard back, but I'm sticking to my story, and that's what I believe in. And I think ultimately, people very informed, policymakers understand that the more roads you build, the more cars you encourage, and the less roadway you have, the more you're going to slow down traffic. So while it's true we do have a big traffic count, it's also true that, and sticking to our the 2016 Master Transportation Plan, the idea is to foster and encourage multimodal forms of transportation, and that includes bicycles as well as pedestrians. So it's not just about cars, and it's not just about, it's just not done in a vacuum.
Got it. Thank you, Dana. So that answers that question. And that's it. I think we covered a lot of ground here. I think this ended up more like a town hall meeting probably than a workshop, but that's okay. I think, again, I want to reiterate what the Vice Mayor had said. Our staff has done an amazing job. It's really lost on people how difficult it is to coordinate all these changing environments all the time. I can tell you, like, with OneBlood, I often say, like, every day in the past couple of months, I've made like a month's worth of decisions, because things are moving quickly and evolving so quickly. So as much as you may say, oh my gosh, the park or the access or this or that, the staff has to take what's given to them and then create, mountains of processes on the fly, which normally would take a study and normally we would have time to look at these things and then make sure that we're acting in a prudent manner and we're thinking everything through. I think they've done an amazing job. I think it continues to be very, very challenging. This beach thing is not going to go easy. I can tell you, I don't believe it's going to be super easy, but I believe that we're going to do our best. Everybody's doing their best. And I ask the public to kind of, indulge us on everybody taking personal responsibility. If there's one message that I want to convey to everyone is everyone needs to take personal responsibility. Because, to Pavel's point about our civil liberties, if we don't take personal responsibility, your leadership is going to have no choice but to put it back the way it was. And that's the bottom line, and I can tell you that, we are going to put health and safety in front of, people not wanting to stay home any day of the week. At least I am. Okay. You can, and I think anybody that, when you think about it, our first responsibility is for the health and safety of the public. And so I'm optimistic that everybody's going to do well here, but at the same time, we all have to do what we need to do here. And we don't have enough enforcement to enforce every condo, every beach, every chair, every elevator, everything that people get upset about. Because, like I said, all the rules have gotten rewritten dynamically in a couple of months. And so you think about that, it's an extraordinary situation. But again, I think we've got great residents. I think that everybody's done a really good job to date. I've been watching the restaurants, how they're kind of unfolding. It's working, it's working. And I think people are, we're kind of opening back up on a gradual basis. But, the beach and the pools are going to be a quick rude awakening. So I think we need to be very, very careful and very, very vigilant, and don't let your guard down. Okay. I can tell you, I track a lot of these COVID cases because of the blood center. This is a really bad thing if you get it. It's very unpredictable. Don't think because you're young that it's not going to affect you, because I know young people that have died. I know middle-aged people that have died. And I know a bunch of older folks that have died. We have a large elderly population here. And, when you get this and you're older, it's very serious. And let me tell you, you can have a pre-existing condition you don't even know that you have. You can be 30 years old and this thing can take you out. So I hate to sound like, the bearer of bad news all the time, but I take this thing very, very seriously. And I really just want to implore upon our residents to please take it seriously. And just because, we're opening up, it doesn't mean the virus has gone away, and it doesn't mean it's any less lethal. So please, be very, very careful and maintain all the vigilance that you've maintained to date. And I think we'll all be fine if we can do that. Once again, I want to thank my commission. I want to thank our staff. You guys are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to add something?
Yeah, I
Go
just wanted two things. One, our staff, as you said, has done an incredible job. We've got people literally working around the clock. Our media group, Public Works, with all the activity with the rains for the whole week and this weekend. The building department. I mean, there isn't one department that isn't, procurement, finance for getting whatever we need. There isn't one. The police department. I mean, there isn't CCS. They've got everybody, all hands on deck. And they bring in more that would have otherwise worked in day camp if we don't have one. But it's just been incredible. I mean, and the only, we try to do as many things as we can to try to show them, but it's not enough. We're buying lunch for the staff that's working around the clock a couple of days a week. It seems like nothing, for what they're doing. I mean, they're turning stuff around. It's like having a crisis every day that they need to get some notice, notices or email blasts out. But so I mean, I just can't say enough about the quality and the work ethic of the people that we've got, and we couldn't have done it without them. That's for sure. There's no question whatsoever. The other thing that to me, I thought about what I'm about to say months ago. And then I heard it last night for the first time on CNN. Don Lemon, I think it was, said it. But I actually went and did this calculation because when people started giving us a lot of pushback on the closures, the beach, and things like that, and even Pavel on his rights and civil liberties, we've communicated a few times, quite extensive, and I respect his thinking on this, but my answer to a lot of the people who we've heard from and spent a lot of time responding to, I think, to me, it comes down to this when I think about it. And I've had two family members who have had it and the virus and are fine now. But I looked at this and I said to myself, we had a war that lasted about 10 years in Vietnam, and we lost about 57,000 American soldiers in 10 years. We lost 100,000 people in less than 5 months. I mean, when you think about that just a little bit, if I have to stay locked in my closet for another 6 months, it's worth it for the rest of your life and your health and your family's health and everybody else. It just, it pales in comparison.
Yeah. No, it's a great parallel, Chris, and there's been a lot of parallels to war, what we're going through right now, that being in a war, and I've read a lot of articles on those parallels, and it's very, very interesting, but this is different. Unfortunately, when we're in these times, our civil liberties do get stepped on, but hopefully, we're trying to do it responsibly, and we're trying to do it with everybody's best interests at heart, So, I feel for everybody. I mean, I certainly feel for the economic impact. We've got a lot of good folks that live in this city, that work in this city. We've got a lot of businesses. They've been decimated. I personally have businesses that have been decimated, I can tell you. I've got businesses I've owned for 30 years that have just been having, major problems. I mean, I'm blessed otherwise, so I'm not complaining, but I'm saying that, we feel for everybody. We take everything into consideration with every decision that we are able to make and control. I can tell you, I've gotten some hate mail saying, I don't understand what people are going through. I don't understand, I live in a nice house or whatever. I mean, I've gotten a lot of hate mail in that respect. I get it. I understand people's frustration. I don't take that kind of mail personally because I know how frustrated people are. and we're all frustrated, I can tell you. And frankly, we're going to see another wave of this virus based on what we're doing. Okay, you can mark my words. I'm not saying it's going to be overwhelming, and I'm not going to say it's going to change our trajectory, but I'm telling folks, be vigilant. Don't let your guard down. Wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, watch out in public places, be careful. Because to Chris's point, we surpassed 100,000. It could be 200,000. You know, so please, all I can say is be careful. You know, we will keep you informed. Everybody is working, is working very hard and doing their best to take care of everybody in our community. And we appreciate our community's support, throughout this process. And I appreciate everybody getting on the call today. I think this has been great. And hopefully we'll have another one of these maybe 6 weeks out or 4 or 6 weeks out. We'll have another one just to keep folks informed. It's been a great venue. So, Chris?
Right. So if people listen to you, then we can make our job easier, especially for our code enforcement officers who really get the brunt of a lot of stuff day to day also.
They do. And we don't have enough code enforcement for everything we're doing. I can tell you flat out. Okay. It's just folks are going to have to be, be vigilant and, and you can't expect, when something's going wrong that somebody's going to be there immediately, because ultimately there's going to be a lot happening here. But we're doing our best. Everybody's keyed up. The staff's been doing a great job, and ultimately it comes down to personal responsibility. And
I just want to add one thing.
Sure.
Thank you. Even though we flattened the curve and hopefully we're all headed in the right direction, we there's still a lot that we don't know, and we have an increase in cases in children. So let's continue to exercise the utmost caution. I miss the beach. I would love to be, out and about, but I think there's still a lot ahead of us, and the more careful we are, the better.
Yeah. No, what I've been saying is this is the end of the beginning.
Yeah.
This is not the end. This is not the end of the situation. This is the end of the beginning. I hate that, and again, I don't want to sound pessimistic. I'm optimistic folks are going to continue to do the right thing. But the bottom line is, this is a very, very unpredictable situation. And to Jennifer's point, there's a lot we don't know. And, so we're seeing it manifest itself in a lot of different ways. So anyway, I'm done lecturing. I feel it in my heart, where we're at. So Dana, go ahead.
Well, that's what vaccines are for, right? That's what effective medical treatments and vaccines are for. This is not a forever thing, right? It's maybe the end of the beginning, but it's certainly got to be. We've got to be in round 3 or 4 in terms of an effective vaccine or effective antibody testing, right?
Well, we have antibody testing, obviously, but my point is that I can tell you, on a countywide basis, about 7% test positive for the antibody, and so my point is that a lot of folks have not had this. They haven't had it. They haven't been exposed to it. There's a lot of running room. This is my point. With the vaccine, the FDA told me 2 months ago, in a perfect world, 9 months to a year.
Okay.
In a regular world, 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
So we'll see. But even when we do get a vaccine, will it be good for everybody? Can everybody tolerate it? Will we be able to produce enough doses? How will it get distributed? I mean, I can go right down the line. Again, I'm not trying to parade the horribles, but at the same time, all I'm trying to say is that we need to remain vigilant. That's it. As a community, we need to take personal responsibility. We need to remain vigilant. That's the key. But to your point, Dana, it's not all pessimism, but at the same time, there's a lot of, we've got much more widespread testing now and what have you. But be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Right,
So,
and there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we have to put things into perspective.
Correct. I'd like to believe we're at the end of the beginning. So we'll see.
Moving along.
Yeah, exactly, Dana. So thank you. Okay, again, I want to thank everybody for attending. God bless you, and take care. Thank you very much, everyone.
Mayor, can you just adjourn the meeting?
Okay. Do we hear a motion to
Just adjourn.
Okay. Meeting's adjourned. It's a workshop. I don't need a motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, Mauricio.
Thank you.